Liberty Lockdown's Clint Russell is here to give us an idiot's guide to FedNow and all things banking. I will tell you, Clint, as I said before we went live, that I have a checking account. I have a credit card, but this stuff is something I think that I have a hard time getting to the truth and understanding like fact from fiction, because I think on the mainline sort of don't worry about it, everything's fine, eat the crickets kind of narrative, there's propaganda there. And I also think that when that occurs, there can be a frenzy propaganda on like sort of extremists, everything's gonna melt down in the next 2 months side too. Like, we're not gonna be able to find diesel for our trucks, which my
Right.
friends promised me when we bought a diesel truck 5 months ago. Actually, wait, it's been almost a year. That's what happens when you have kids. Time flies. But anyway, but I've still been able to fill up my truck's gas tank. So I don't know. Help me with this. Let's start with FedNow. All right, this is what they're saying. Is FedNow replacing cash? Is it a central bank digital currency? No, FedNow is not related to a digital currency. FedNow is a payment service the Federal Reserve is making available for banks and credit unions to transfer funds. It is like other Federal Reserve payment services such as FedWire and FedACH. The FedNow service is neither a form of currency nor a step toward eliminating any form of payment, including cash. Do you buy that?
I think in its current iteration, yeah, it's not a formal step towards those goals, but I do think that ultimately the central bankers of the world, not just the Fed, realize they're reading the writing on the wall that, like, if you're going to compete with other central bank digital currencies, you're almost certainly going to have to adopt one yourself. So that's my expectation. As for FedNow, it's essentially just an instant electronic central banking platform for transferring currency, which ultimately isn't incredibly dissimilar from how it occurs now. I mean, most of the dollars that are transacted in the American economy happen electronically and instantaneously or close to it anyway. So I think that the fear mongering is slightly overstated, but it's also not it's not something we should be ignoring entirely, for sure.
Okay. Before we go any further, I would like to switch us from central bank digital currency to gold for a second. Clint, just hang out, if you will.
Yeah.
Thanks to Noble Gold, and thanks to all of you who have been checking out whether switching your IRA or your 401k into precious metals is something that you're interested in, even just calling and going to the website, morrowgold.com, or calling 877-646-5347 and just asking them questions. Even if you've already called like 5 times before and they haven't convinced you, call again. Because if you tell them that I sent you, maybe they'll keep coming back and sponsoring some videos and help me keep people like Clint coming on the channel. Again, I get a lot of questions from people, which I don't really have a whole lot of answers to, about what's going on with the housing market, what's going on with the stock market. And that's why I'm bringing people like Clint on to answer those questions. But they can answer your questions too. If you want, go to Noble Gold, morrowgold.com, 877-646-5347. Again, if you have ever been interested in rolling over your IRA or 401k into precious metals, you want to diversify into precious metals, get your questions answered. They've been in business over 2 decades. They have almost 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau and Consumer Affairs. And they have been... they've been coming back. So I guess you guys are asking enough questions. What would it cost to sign up? What's it going to cost to maintain the account? What would it cost to withdraw? All that good stuff. So check it out. morrowgold.com, 877-646-5347. And as always, as the federal government suggests, you know how they do. They suggest. I have to say, this is not financial advice. There's always a risk when investing, and there is no guarantee of any kind. Okay, so thanks to Noble Gold for sponsoring my videos. Go check them out. Clint, let's go back to our topic real fast. So when we're looking at the Fed, I think one of the reasons that I want to talk to you about this is that a friend of mine's bank uses Jack Henry. And I guess Jack Henry is somehow related to this. It's going to be what, like the first processor, I guess, to work with this. Explain to me what Jack Henry is.
Yeah, I mean, I only heard about it because of you, to be honest. But
Oh, okay. Well, let me pull it up.
yeah, I mean, Jack Henry is I guess it's just a bank that intends to be the first to use the FedNow system. So I don't think it's incredibly noteworthy. They're essentially using it as a marketing pitch to their customers.
why do you think why do you think the people who are listening to the bank saying this is such a great thing, or listening to the Fed saying this is a great thing, what's been the selling point? Like, what are they saying is the positive side of this? That
Instantaneous
uh-huh.
transactions. I mean, there's
But why do we
usually,
need that? I'm just curious.
I mean, it's just that's kind of how everything evolves technologically, right? Like we want everything to be faster and more efficient, and there is latency in money transfers, particularly when it comes to trying to vet whether or not those funds are valid. Like if you send a wire, you have to pay for it too. So they're
Mhm.
trying to reduce latency, so speed up the economy, but also cut down on costs, fees. Because if you send a wire from bank to bank, it costs $25 or $30, depending on where you bank. Um, I mean, theoretically, this could be much cheaper and much faster. So that's the selling point. What I grant you, it's like, do you really need your money, the same second, or can you wait an hour? You know.
Yeah, what's the like new thing in Washington is I think they are going from 5 to 10 days to get a gun or
Right.
something. Yeah, right?
We're going
So,
the opposite way with guns than we are with the money system, but yeah.
right. Yeah. So you'll be able to get the money for your gun, but you can't get the gun. And
That is a that
I
is
still think there
libertarian
should
hell.
I feel like there should maybe be a cooling off period for purchases. Maybe Americans wouldn't be in so much debt, but the banks would hate that. They would hate for you to think twice about going into significant debt and transferring funds.
Oh,
Me
yeah.
personally, I'm going back to the cash system. I like or the barter system, frankly. Like, don't even deal with money. Just trade something for a cow. That's where I'm headed. Let's talk real fast about how Clint's on locals too. It's libertylockdown.locals.com. Is that right?
Yep, that's me.
Okay. And I'm AllisonMorrow.locals.com, where Desert Dog Studio asks, do we have a list of all the processors or intermediary banks who will be implementing FedNow trials?
I haven't seen a, cumulative list as of yet, but I would imagine it's going to be significant. There's going to be a lot of them. And look, just to put it bluntly, uh, this is coming. Like it's going to happen. You're going to have FedNow, and in my estimation, within probably 5 years, I think you'll have the implementation, or at least the attempted rollout of a central bank digital currency more broadly. So, um, if you're trying to avoid banking institutions which take this path, I think that you need to be migrating into a currency that isn't, used by the banks, and that would be probably Bitcoin, to be honest. But they're also probably going to criminalize that once the CBDC is rolled out. So that means that you're then pushed into a gray or a black market just to try and stay free. And the reason that I'm so concerned about the central bank digital currency, the reason that it's, to me, the reddest of red lines when it comes to freedom, is that you have a what's called redemption, where essentially the central bank or the Fed, at the discretion and probably direction of either the Treasury, the Fed chair, or FDIC, or Congress, or the president, uh, or DHS for that matter, because they've already been using this mechanism to go after terrorists. Uh, I think that the same thing we saw in Canada with the trucker strike, when they just froze all these people's accounts. That is the real fear of a central bank digital currency, is that not only can they freeze your account, but with redemption, because it is essentially a proprietary code that only exists within the central bank, they can just click their fingers, throw a switch, and your currency is poofed. It's gone. And you can't even prove that you owned it. And that to me is by far the most horrifying part in terms of unpersoning people like Alex Jones. Imagine if, instead of, hitting him with $1 billion fine or judgment, they're able to just seize his savings. I mean, that's the real fear moving forward, in my opinion.
This is from Locals, where you can be on my editorial board for $5 a month. So go check it out. And then you get to go direct with the most censored people on the internet. Grumpy Old Man, I know the Fed wants to take over digital, but the Fed has admitted they have some legal constraint to do so. How are they going to get around this?
Congress will do whatever the Treasury says. That's my humble opinion, or what the Fed requests, because he's right. I mean, theoretically, Congress would have to pass a law that gives the Federal Reserve the power to have a central bank digital currency. But let's also be honest. We're not supposed to be able to go to war without declarations, and we've been in a dozen wars over the past 50 years, and we haven't had a single declaration of war from Congress. So they can, abdicate their role at any time. And I think that that's also a distinct possibility. So while it's important that we keep political pressure up, I think that ultimately we have to just reject it outright. We have to say we will not adapt or adopt your central bank digital currency. We understand what it means, and we will never go along with it. I hope that people understand, let me do a 10-second rant as to why this is so important.
Please do.
What I envision is because of the debt that we exist under. If you take our national debt, which is nearing 32 trillion, you add up all of these basically debt instruments on top of debt instruments, where you now have, from some estimates, over $300 trillion of global debt that exists. Like, this is going to result in economic calamity in the not too distant future. Like, it's just going to happen. It's a math equation. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So when we have the fallout from that, then you're probably going to see universal basic income with a central bank digital currency rolled out to try and subdue the masses as they realize that their financial future has been ripped out from underneath their feet. And when that happens, because people are desperate, many will go along with it because they're starving. They need food, so they need this money, so they're going to acquiesce to the central bank digital currency. That's almost certainly how this will come to pass. So people have to put themselves in a position of financial security so that they can say no during that period.
Clint, thanks again. Everybody go follow Clint. This is his Rumble channel, Liberty Lockdown. He's on Twitter, very active there, Liberty Lockdown with Clint Russell. That's where I follow you the most, is on your Twitter. I'm just like one of those creepers on Twitter. I don't really use Twitter a whole lot for output. I'm mostly an input user for Twitter. I just watch people and their conversations. One of which I'm not going to even get into right now, but I'm going to have you back, about Eliza Blue. That whole thing was such a dumpster fire. I watched it all from the comfort of my own home on Twitter.
Oh man, what a crazy
dude.
2 months that was. My goodness.
Oh, so that's a tease for everybody. Watch it there. If you are watching this later on YouTube, I'm trying a new experiment starting with Clint. I am going to start uploading multiple short videos to see what happens. So if you want to see the entirety of our conversation, you can watch it on ROKFIN, Rumble, or Locals. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you're just getting a short clip. So hope to see you over there if you like it all. And let me know what you think about the short clip format if you are watching this on YouTube, if you like that better or not.